Hello, my name is Colton Hatch, and this PowerPoint is a visual and audio representation of my final research project in History 305. This project is a historical and contemporary review of smart home devices. I'll begin by explaining why I picked this topic and why it is a relevant subject. The main reason I chose the topic of smart home devices is because for my final SIT project, I'll be designing and building a smart home security system. This system will involve engineering custom smart devices that will connect wirelessly to each other through a network. Aside from this, there are several reasons as to why I picked this subject and why it is relevant. First of all, any technology that is currently being worked on is a great subject to review. This is because I can compare what it was like in the past to where it is today and where it might go in the future. The subject is also relevant because homes everywhere are beginning to incorporate this technology. So if I too am going to get behind this movement, then it will be important to understand how this technology got to where it is today and where it's still going. The final reason this subject is important is because there are still very few laws and regulations that constrain this technology and the companies developing it, so it is a pressing matter in the public eye. In looking at the history of smart home devices, I asked myself, how did we get from there to here? With this question in mind, I was able to locate several things that happened in the past which involved smart home devices and that are relevant to how we got to where we are today. To start, the earliest occurrences of smart home devices that could complete tasks automatically without the need for manual labor were introduced throughout the first 2 decades of the 1900s. During this time, home appliances were first being introduced, things like the washing machine, toaster, and motor-powered vacuum. Now, today, these don't seem like they're smart devices, but by definition, these technically can be considered the first smart home devices. It wasn't until 1966 that the first true smart home device was created, which was a computer named Echo 4. This device could compute shopping lists, control the home's temperature, and turn appliances on and off. Because this early smart home device never sold commercially, the smart home era was still yet to really kick off. One of the most important innovations occurred in 1997. A man named Kevin Ashton helped create a microchip that would allow wireless signals to be transmitted and received. This invention is really what kick-started the smart home era, and because of it, the concept IoT came to fruition. IoT, meaning Internet of Things, is a technological concept that gained popularity after the number of connected devices exceeded the world population. The Internet of Things was the driving force that got smart home technology from where it was in the early 2000s to where it is currently. People and technology, now interconnected, brought forth some issues though. These issues involve the privacy and security of user data that is transmitted to and from devices. Companies that produce services and technologies were able to use their consumers' data however they wanted due to a lack of legislation and regulation. Even the government was involved in this. A 2013 scandal revealed by Edward Snowden proved that the government had been using data taken from the companies and their users. Despite how serious this issue was at the time, there is still very little action that has taken place since then, and the action that has currently, people are still afraid that their personal data is at risk, and those who aren't afraid are most likely being misled. Like I said, very little action has taken place in an effort to improve the state of smart home technology. One example of action taken that really isn't very helpful is when California passed a law in November of 2018 requiring IoT device manufacturers to equip each device with a security feature to protect user data. The words security feature can literally mean anything. This is one of the major issues today. Companies are trying to inconspicuously mislead their users. It has been proven that companies are using consumer data for their own needs, but in many cases, these companies are also sharing or selling that data to third parties. This is where the real issue stems from. Companies are required to lay out what their policies are and in their privacy policy. However, many companies attempt to steer users away from knowing exactly what they're doing with the collected data by putting out policies that are often verbose, difficult to understand, or take too long to read. With these privacy issues aside, there is still another big problem facing smart home technology. That issue has to do with the fact that smart home devices are part of the Internet of Things, meaning they are connected and accessible through any other point on the same network. Hackers have been able to get into these devices and access user data. So overall, this technology is very controversial and has potential to damage consumers' lives. Despite all of the issues that come with this technology, there is still hope for the With growing popularity comes a larger number of people ready to back changes to the legislation regarding smart home devices and the companies that have access to the data transmitted through said devices. Once again, there isn't a lot that has been done yet, but there are companies out there doing as much as they can. Some companies like August, a smart home device supplier, have made public statements in order to help ease the concerns of its consumers. August stated this: "The security of your information is important to us. We follow generally accepted industry standards to protect the data submitted to us through our devices, mobile applications, and services." Aside from statements like this, the only other thing a consumer can do to ease their concerns, or at least avoid future problems, is to read the privacy policies supplied by each company. With this, they can at least get an idea of which companies to stay away from. So ultimately, there is a lot of room for improvement in terms of solution. Like I said earlier, California has made a small step towards progress with their law requiring IoT manufacturers to incorporate a security feature to protect user data. By taking a step back to view the big picture, one can clearly see that we are still in the early stages of developing this technology and laws regarding it. So the only way to go from here is up. And as long as the people, government, and IoT companies are aware of these issues, there is hope for the future. So in conclusion, in order to get from here to there, the government needs to apply more effort in creating effective laws to protect consumer data and privacy, and the companies behind the development of smart home technology need to develop more secure methods of connection and be more upfront about how they use consumer data.